So if we have any wrinkles, scars, adhesions, bumps, bruises, injuries, and there's any kind of stagnancy in that structure, that can actually strangle and inhibit that flow of that lymphatic system.
Hello, and welcome to the Energy Flow podcast. I'm Kelly Kennedy, and I am here to discuss all things energy, fascia, lymphatics, oxygen, and water. Over my 26 years of being on this journey and 19 years in clinical practice, dealing with chronically ill, chronically pained, to the optimizing of health and to everything in between, we have learned throughout these years how to efficiently and effectively teach people how the body works, get them engaged in that system, help them understand how the universe works and how those two connect. And that's what this Energy Flow podcast is about. Whether you are new to us or you've been a longtime listener of over 4 years now, we are so happy and honored to share our heart's honest truth about what we know, what has worked for us, what's worked in the clinical practice, and what might be the key to your next step in your journey. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for sharing this with all that it will resonate with. We look forward to each and every moment of our genuine connection. Thank you for listening.
Hello, Energy Flow podcast listeners and viewers. This is one you're going to want to view today. I'm Kelly Kennedy, KFK, Kelly Flow and Kennedy, and we're going to talk about the foundation of really what started this whole thing, beyond my story with iron and my pain and all of that stuff from a car accident, my dad's chronic illness. And, we can certainly go through that story, but you've all heard that story. You don't need to hear that story again. What we want to talk about is the lymphatic system and how I really got there, because liberating your lymph and getting you really free and helping you be your best physician and your best pharmacist, because you have the ability to enhance your own wellness because you have all of it inside of you, is the foundational principle of this podcast, of our Flow forum, of our membership program that's virtual, of every single transformative appointment we have at the True Wellness Center in Pennsylvania, 19 years and counting. That is the foundation of every class. Everything we do at the True Wellness Center is to essentially allow you to understand better how your body works, how the universe works, how those two things connect, and how you can be free to remember who you really are, which is a divine being having a physical experience, and why the lymph became the focus of that experience and how it all relates to the system that I now call the energy flow formula, right? So energy flow technique, energy flow podcast, energy flow forum. What's that all about, Kelster? So here's what it's about. It's about energy, which is everything in the universe that vibrates and is a frequency, is picked up by our antenna known as our fascia. That's where the rubber meets the road. That's where the physical and the non-physical communicate through frequency of vibration, through light and sound. And the fascia is our antenna. So if we have any wrinkles, scars, adhesions, bumps, bruises, injuries, and there's any kind of stagnancy in that structure, that can actually strangle and inhibit that flow of that lymphatic system. And we're going to, as I show you some of these slides today, you're going to learn why that lymph became so important to me. Then the lymph is what magnifies or amplifies that frequency from the fascia and then communicates that and circulates that through the whole system so that the oxygen can get to everywhere, because the lymph and the fascia are open. The oxygen can circulate through our blood system and through our lymphatic system. The oxygen can get everywhere so that the water, which is what we are a majority of, can hold that structure. That's really what this whole system is about and how I got there. Quickly, I will just say, let me share this, if you will. This is about liberating your lymph. And how I really got there was so long ago now, 30 years ago now. I was this girl. I was this girl that lived in chronic pain and was worried about chronic illness. My father had Hodgkin's disease. He had cancer 7 times. He died when I was 20. He died not of cancer. He died of a couple strokes. I was with him when he had his last stroke. And I was pre-med at Cornell. And I had just had a car accident myself. I was a passenger in the backseat of a car, and I was told I was going to have surgery one day, that my 2 inches in height that I lost as I compressed 2 vertebrae, the scalping of my head was going to be no problem. They just stapled it together, the 12-inch scar on my head, and my spleen being lacerated. They were glad I didn't lose my spleen, as am I. But that girl in that picture was depressed and angry and sad and didn't understand how the universe worked, the body worked, but watched her father die at 55, watched herself be on 6 medications, and picked her head up and was like, there's got to be another way. Thank God, 3 years later, I found the other way, and the other way was energy. I had a spontaneous healing. I had come to an acupuncture office. The 3rd visit, I asked the guy. The 1st visit, I went for money. The 2nd visit, I went for pain. When my pain was gone after 7 days, my 3rd visit was, how did you do that? The answer was energy. I said, what the heck is energy? He said, it's cool, huh? I said, what? How do I make sure pain doesn't come back? And he said, B. Energy means charged particle, right? Energy is like the charged particle of life. And ion is what a charged particle is called in chemistry. An ion is a charged particle. Ion is the Scottish pronunciation of John, and that practitioner's name was Ion. Isn't that not funny? I got one better for you. That practitioner named Ion is now my husband. That's right. I got the best deal of all. So not only did that energy create a spontaneous healing, but it created a curiosity in me that hasn't ended in 28 years of how can we educate people about this energy? How can we apply this energy, not just the Fascia of it, as I say here, apply the science of energy, and how can we touch this energy? How do we talk about this energy? If it's everything, if we're more energy than we are physical, where's the science? And so I was introduced to trained medicine. I was introduced to this concept of germ theory versus terrain concept. So it's the concept of, I grew up in a pet store down the street from the house that I grew up in. There was a pet store, and I would say since I was about 6, these people kind of adopted me, and I love them so much still to this day. These folks were like a second family to me, and the pet store was my happy place, and it was mostly an aquarium. And the bottom line was, when the fish was sick, the first thing we did was, we didn't just throw in the methylene blue drops, which is really what it was, to treat the ick, which is the most common thing that happens to fish. We first changed the water, then we treated the fish. Because why treat the fish if the environment hasn't changed? Little did I know how that little lesson would lead to the rest of my life. Why treat the fish if the environment doesn't change? And I'm sure that's why at 16, I went to the oncologist with my father and said, okay, this guy's had cancer a bunch of times. All I see the guy eat is red meat and potatoes. Can we get him to eat some other vegetable? And the oncologist said, the nutrition doesn't matter. I was 16, so that was 1990, folks. And that doctor, by the way, that oncologist at Roswell, died 1 year later from cancer. So one of the things I've been always taught is you can only get the results of the person who's giving you the advice. If you ask a married person how to live a single life, what do they know about it? Just like when people used to come to me when I was at the beginning of True Wellness, and they would ask me marital advice. I'm like, you realize I'm not married. I'm not going to give you marriage advice. I'm not going to give you parenting advice because I'm not a parent. It's all philosophical unless I've actually done it. Once I've done it, and I've done it all. And I'm here to show you how I've applied this, how you can be more efficient about it, and how you can be your best practitioner. I'm not saying you don't need to go to a clinic now and then, not saying you might not need some tools. I have some tools to show you here. that I use a lot of these tools. I don't know why you can't see the tools, but there's a bunch of tools back there, right? So we're going to go over those tools. But the concept of this germ and terrain theory is, it's not that COVID was the problem. It was that the person's body that COVID affected became the problem. And then everybody went, oh, let me get a vaccine. And I know I'm probably going to get kicked off of YouTube for saying this. So you might have to go to my membership to hear this solo cast. But here's what I'm going to say. When did God forget the immune system? You know, I had a child at home and I was 39 years old. And my first child, and I was 17 days late, and we never vaccinated him. He's 12 years old. He's so strong. He's so vital. Vital. He's not viral. He's vital. Although that kid goes viral. If he draws anything and puts it on YouTube, it goes viral. But he's so vital and he's so strong, and he never had a vaccine. And I could argue the science of why we don't vaccine and all the bell curves and all the places it didn't vaccine and how the body's immunity built the immunity and how autoimmunity works and all the things. However, I could also say, did God forget the immune system? Change the environment and allow that body to heal. That's how it works. So as I started to learn the science, it really was a European approach to medicine. And as we learned this, one of the tests that they brought into our vision, into our world, was this test. This is called contact regulation thermography. So it's important to explain a little bit of how it works. If you're looking at this, I know it's a lot to look at. The first time they started to teach this, I literally walked out of the room, and I'm a science Cornell graduate. So if you're overwhelmed right now, you're not the only one. But know this. What this test does, hear this, it's a German scientific quantitative assessment of temperature. So what you do is the night before, you precisely shower, get all the lotions, everything off your skin, you brush your teeth, you go to bed. You have nothing on your skin. You wake up in the morning, ideally you roll out of bed, you've not changed your temperature, you stay cozy warm. You then stand in a room and somebody takes the temperature with a probe of your skin, of your dermatome, on 128 points in your whole body. Then you stand in that room in just your underwear and you cool off, and that person comes in and administers that same exact test to administer it again. The reason that that's key is because the concept of can the body adapt is regulation, not static. Am I doing okay now? That's great. But if I get pressure, if I get something pushed up against me, if I get exposed to a virus, I just heard somebody say, Kelly, you're talking too fast. So thank you for slowing me down. All of these pressures, stress of life, a parent gets sick, we have a pregnancy we weren't planning on, we get in a car accident, the kid needs more help with homework than we anticipated, and we have a big deal at work this week. Whatever the pressure is that we are up against, the body has to compensate for it. And if it doesn't, that's when we start to see symptoms. Because the body's always juggling balls. I'm going to turn this off for a second because I don't want you to get distracted. Know that the body's always juggling balls. Is it juggling 5 balls or 15 balls is the question. And when the body drops a ball is when we see a symptom. But the whole time, the body's juggling balls that we're not aware of. Wouldn't it be cool to find out the balls that the body's juggling, or at least how many, and perhaps where they are, and what that means for why it dropped the ball that it was just thrown? Why did I get COVID twice and barely notice it other than 1 or 2 days of extreme exhaustion and some respiration issues? And some people passed, and a lot of people are still dealing with long-term COVID. Yet at the True Wellness Clinic, we don't have anybody that's dealing with long-term COVID that I know of. And if you are, please call me because we got solutions. Because your body just needs a little facilitation to open up its drainage, to get that stuff to come out, and to allow it to enhance its immunity so that it can rise up to the challenge of this stress, be it a virus, be it a kid's whatever, be it malaria, whatever it is, or the measles, to rise up to that occasion. And so the CRT, the contact regulation thermography, oh, I thought I shared, I just switched screens, is this test that's looking at the temperature, and the temperature is the most subtle thing that changes in the body even before a cell turns over. Because remember, we have a lot of space between the cells, right? We learned that We're going to talk about that in a second. But here's the thing. In this very precise German test, yellow is the ideal zone. This is all the temperature readings. Black line is the first read. Red is the second read. The change in temperature is the regulation. All the points above the jaw should warm. All the points below the jaw should cool. That's not for you to understand everything. It's just for you to know that this is an assessment, and it is looking at a range. And if you fall out of that range, then that indicates that there's a problem. And the longer that problem goes on, the deeper it goes into the system. And then the deeper the body can't handle that ball anymore because it's been juggling it for so long, and now it's got a lot of other balls, and now it shows a symptom. And if that goes on long enough, that'll go deeper into the system and cross that biological division that we talk about in a previous podcast with Dr. Lisa Holt. And then it goes into impregnation. And now if we don't do anything about it, it goes further into the body and it gets to cell de-differentiation. And now we got cancer. So cancer is not a mistake. Cancer is the body's answer to waking up to where there's a lack of energy flow, where the body's not paying attention, where there's a rigidity, and getting our attention and our breath, our consciousness to be aware of that. This is such a deep subject. It's why I've spent the last 5 years of my life pouring into this podcast and the membership forum and into every client that's walked in our office for 19 years, on every phone call and every initial investigation call and to every appointment. We are looking to invite you to a true transformation, to truly live heaven on earth, and know that there's a science behind you. And at the True Wellness Center, be held in that science of energy. And this test started all for me to become the lymph queen. Because in this very precise test with these, okay, here's 100% temperature readings, here's the averages, here's where to start therapy, how fast to move therapy, where the body's really juggling, because this person might have great blood work, but their CRT, their live blood analysis, which we're going to talk about in a second, and their HRV are all indicating that there's a disbalance in the body, that there's many more balls the body's juggling. And if we don't do something about it, a ball's going to drop, a symptom's going to occur. And now in allopathic medicine, they're going to chase that symptom and they're going to blame the last thing of exposure. They're going to blame the symptom. They're going to blame the last thing of exposure. And in terrain medicine, we go, no, it's that the body couldn't handle another ball. So what are the other balls the body is juggling? What are the root causes? What is the body up against? And why can't I get rid of that crap to allow me to have enough room, enough space to juggle this new ball you just threw at me? Because life is going to keep coming at us. So how do we continue to rise above? And how do we continue to regenerate? And how do we continue to get stronger instead of weaker? Listeners and viewers of the Energy Flow podcast, I'm only interrupting to tell you about the membership program that we launched a few months ago, where you can access all things energy, fascia, lymph, oxygen, and water, brought to you by the True Wellness team, myself primarily, with a lot of videos and a lot of blogs and a lot of recipes and all the things to support you to apply the science of energy in your everyday life, and how to do it simply and organized in a platform and with community. Once a month, this community gets together in a Q&A where you get to ask me questions. We've had beautiful interactions and beautiful questions already in just a few months. Join us. Become a supportive member here on the podcast for just $7 a month. You can be a tier 1 part of our Energy Flow forum, where you get to go a little deeper into these podcasts offered to you for free. Or for $23 a month, you can be part of all of the things that we just discussed. I look forward to seeing you on our membership platform and at our Q&A. So, CRT. On this test, these points right here where it labels T1 through L8 are the only quantitative assessment I've ever seen for your lymphatic system. And this started all for me, because when I learned this test, they said, I memorized a lot of things at the time. If the second reading of L5 is warmer, then you start all therapy in the head. If the second reading of L6 is warmer, you start all therapy in the body. And you base this whole very German, very precise tests, very quantitative assessment, where to start therapy in the body or the head based upon which of these 2 points, L5 and L6, is warmer. Now, isn't that interesting? I'm going to turn off this and watch me. L5 and L6. Those look like the termini Kelly's always talking about, because they are. And when they said that, I wasn't a lymph queen yet, but I started doing this test. And every single client was supposed to be below the line and in this yellow zone range. And every single client, from me who had no symptoms to the desperately ill client that was walking in stage 4 illness, was all inflamed in their lymphatic system. Every single client. And I was like, this lymph is a problem. And I learned further about terrain medicine, about live blood, which we're going to go to next. The live blood analysis, looking at the spaces between the cells. These circles are your red blood cells. These like shiny ones that look like faces are your white blood cells on the right. That's a pretty healthy person, relatively good looking blood. They don't have a lot of metal. Their red blood cells look pretty empty. This person on the left has a lot of circulation issues. The red blood cells have a lot of acid. They're stacked on top of each other. If you look closer at the background in the space, there's a lot of junk, a lot of debris. That's going to contribute to what Western medicine calls autoimmune disease, what Kelly Kennedy calls, and other people like Marshall Protocol calls, cell wall deficient bacteria, which contributes to chronic illness. Okay. But here's the point. This terrain, this space between the cells, we are ideally to have 3 times more lymphatic fluid in the body than we are red blood cells. And that space, that lymph fluid, if it's not empty, if there's not enough of it, then nothing can leave the body, and there's no detoxification out of the cell, and there's no excretion out of the body. Detoxification is defined as leaving the cell. Excretion is leaving the body. The difference in the middle is the drainage of your lymphatics. So it's not about detox, folks. It's about drainage. And that CRT test up here is the one that indicated to me that every single person that I've ever tested in 19 years that I've had this quantitative assessment has had a hot lymphatic system, and their sinuses, their ethmoid and their maxillary sinuses, all, and okay, I'm going to say 98% of them are all extremely cold. And we know in bioregulatory medicine that cold is old toxins. So if we have a lot of old toxins stuck in our sinuses and our lymph system, we can't drain anything out. And then the oxygen is inhibited. And that's what heals the body, the conscious oxygen everywhere, circulating to every part of the body, and then moving out the trash, which is part of your lymphatic system, identifying the trash, part of your lymphatic system, moving the fats and the proteins, part of your lymphatic system, your nutrients, not just your bad fats and your excess proteins, does that too, but also circulates all that, dumps from this L5, L6, from these termini. I'll turn off this so you can see me. From L5, L6, from the termini, dumps into the heart. And that dear, dear heart of yours is now taking on all that's in that fluid. And so the question becomes, how thin is that fluid? Is it thick like jelly because it's full of acids and chemicals and metals? Or is it thin like water? And we go into this in our forum. We go into this in our clinic. We go into this in our Institute of Educations. We go into this throughout the podcast. But I, as the lymph queen, realize that many of you don't know that why I got into the lymph system. It's because of this test. And then that led me down so many paths to understand that that lymph was being congested by the fascia, which I should have known from day one, because once we injected my scar, I felt like my whole suit got bigger and everything drained better. And I never got another ovarian cyst, which is why I have that philosophy of the lymph being part of, or the ovaries being part of our lymphatic system. The lymph is the answer to draining out our toxins. And everybody wants our heads to drain, right? Everybody wants the head the brain and all that to work well because your central and your peripheral nervous system. But if your body doesn't drain, the head won't drain because of how the lymph works, because it's like this hourglass, but it doesn't flip. It drains out the bottom, and the head is the top of the hourglass and the body is the bottom of the hourglass, and the middle of the hourglass is your neck. And that's where 20% of your lymph is in your neck and 50% is in your gut. So this is about you pooping and sweating and peeing and properly circadian rhythm bleeding if you're still in that cycle, and allowing the body to drain out its toxins, getting your toxins out of your nose, blowing your nose, all the different ways that our body releases things to allow it to come out of the body, so that that water in the body can be free and open and can circulate everything that we need. And then that water can structure. So if you know Masaru Emoto's work, he talked about water crystals, right? If I talk to water crystals, say beautiful words. But we found through that work that it was limited because it wasn't always duplicatable with the mind, because we know that's limited. But we now know that the heart is unlimited. So the heart is the center of our logo at the True Wellness Center, because we know the heart is where 40,000 more sensory neurites are that are feeding sensory information to the rest of the body. And at the source of our heart, when every single heart frequency is played to water, that water crystal, when looked at under a microscope, always is beautiful and symmetrical in sacred geometry. Proven by Rasmus Gaup-Bergenhausen, who runs a lab in Austria, who worked with Emoto for 17 years, who created a technology that's more advanced than anything I've ever come across in my life, called Sound of Soul, which is really your heart song, your frequency of your heart played back to you as light and music, allowing you to go back into coherence, to remember at the heart of you is your coherence. And when you're in coherence, all the water in your body looks like beautiful water crystals. And that's going to allow the cells to have proper information, because the lymphatic and the cells are going to be in sacred geometry. The information of light and sound travels like this throughout the body. And those crystals are either symmetrical or they're in dissonance. And then we've got the actual anatomy of the lymph. We have the fluid, the vessels, the nodes, and all its major functions. We have how it moves through the body with the watersheds. We have how important the lymph nodes are and why I focus. It's not just about the top 7. If you think moving your lymph, it's about the top 7 or the top 10, and it's just about that, then you are missing the boat and you've never listened. You've missed a lot of what I've said, because that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's just the beginning. We also have lymph glands. What the lymph is really up against is a whole bunch of stuff. And unless we learn how that is physical, yes, pumping the lymph nodes, getting the lymph fluid movement, but you have 600 to 1,000 lymph nodes. So it's not just about 10 of them. And it's about the direction they go, and it's about how to be effective at doing that, and what tools to use. It's also about making sure it's not being strangled by the fascia, which is why we talk about that. And then it's making sure we are breathing deeply, aware with our oxygen getting everywhere, so that what's up against lymph can drain out of the body. There are constant stressors we're up against. The 7 we talk about all the time are food, water, radiation, injuries, metals, chemicals, immune challenges, and emotional stress. We all know these things. And detox is not the same as drainage. In order to drain out these things, we've got to remember that we are a body of water and we are emotional. And that emotional body of water, as I record this on the blood moon here in March, it is a skill to learn to work with that body of water, to hear it, to listen to it, to allow it to express out its rhythms and its waves. Sometimes those waves are little waves like, sometimes they're, but allowing the body to feel, to heal, to express is the formula of the energy flow system. And we have, like I said, we do immersions in person at the clinic. If that's something that calls to you, make an investigation call with us today and see if that's the right fit for you. If you've tried all the things, you've been all the places, you don't feel different, you need a transformation, this calls to you, come to the center. If you're a do-it-yourself person like Kelly, that's great. I don't need the time. I don't have the time, or I don't want to make the time, or I don't have the resources to make that happen. But do you have a rule, an instruction book, a guidebook on how to do that in my own home? Well, yes, I do. It's called our 3-week mini cure, and it's a do-it-yourself program that has everything you need to be able to be successful at opening your fascia, getting that lymph moving, getting that oxygen to flow, and getting that energy to flow through your body, and living as a structured water being that's in coherence and in the state of flow, more in regeneration than in degeneration. And as long as the probability is happening more than not, then we're in the right direction. And the more we do it, the better we get at it. And it becomes less efforting and more just part of us. And it's all just part of me. As I got prepared today, let me just say first, too, we have the podcast. I think this is probably episode 150 or 155 or something. So we have 4 years of free education for you there. We have a membership, which is the Institute, to learn all this, also with Q&A with me and Q&A with my husband and other things to be added. We have a WhatsApp channel. We have with that all to support that community to really learn how to take this applied science of energy flow and utilize it every day. So today, as I woke up, I have a YouTube channel. You can check those out as well. Where I just showed people, not just for the podcast, but regular, where I just showed people how I get my flow every day. If you're not watching this, you're missing it. I also have written a book where I teach about energy flow. So to say that I have information would be an understatement. But it's not about information. It's about applying the science. So today when I danced, I used my block. I did a nebulizer a couple days ago. I have my RT so I can work my scar. I have my flow vibe so I can move my lymph. I have my minerals so I can replenish my body. And most importantly, I have my water bottle. So that logo of the True Wellness Center is right here. And it's been etched into this blue water bottle. And as well, the words "I am love" have been etched into this blue water bottle, because what I've learned from the sound of soul, what I've learned from this technology, what I've learned from Rasmus, what I've learned from the science of energy is that you are love, that we are all love, and that we've forgotten that we're love. And that the fear part of us, the mammal, we must wrangle that mammal. And that's what energy flow system is about, is how do we wrangle the mammal to be able to utilize that beautiful conscious mind of ours, but in the proportion that it's listening first to that dear, dear central heart of ours that has all the answers to the entire universe. And knowing that we're water, and knowing that the most abundant element of water is so unconscious often as we bring it into our system, that I wanted to make an opportunity for people to remember that they are love and to bring this into their body. So we etched in our logo and the "I am love," and that water crystal I showed you earlier is exactly the crystals that the water has inside of it when it's exposed to that logo, let alone to the love. So this water bottle is full of those beautiful water crystals. And as I bring it into my system, it's the information that's telling my body that I am love. And at the center of all healing is the heart and the fractal of the True Wellness Center, just like we know to be true. This podcast is my heart project, and it's going to take a little bit of a shift and a change in a great direction over the next year. I have revamped a lot of things at the center, a lot of things in our virtual world and our campus, I will call it, in just a lot of ways. And as we continue to elevate and upgrade, we continue to have better offerings, more available to more people and more affordable. So look for more great guests on the podcast. Look for great stuff on the forum. Do please subscribe. If you are not a subscriber of my podcast, it's because I haven't asked you. So please subscribe. We have a lot of people listening to this and not nearly the same amount of subscribers. The more you subscribe, the better and easier it is for other people to find me and get this information, which we really appreciate and helps the whole world change. Also, do consider becoming a subscriber to help support this podcast and all the other things. For just $7 a month, you can get extra episodes, as well as some bonus material. And if you want to support and be part of the whole entire Flow Form membership for just $23, you get those bonus podcasts as well as much other information. And so do consider that for your own self, to give you the tools, the community, the connection to your energy flow and to your next steps in your journey back to yourself, to allow you to rise again and to dance it off and to live heaven on earth. I'm Kelly Kennedy. I love you all, and I look forward to our next connection. And until then, stay in your center, stay in your heart, and flow forward, folks.
Well, champions of the vibe flow community, energy flowing through that body, thank you for sharing this time with us and getting through the entire episode today. I know time is what we're spending here as our currency on this planet as people, and it really does mean a lot that as we devote our time and energy into creating this content, that you stuck with us throughout it. So if you would like more on this particular subject from this expert and get that free gift, make sure to register for our Energy Flow Forum. And you too, with a very nominal price, can access all sorts of upgraded content and deeper dives into the very subjects that you love: energy, fascia, lymphatics, oxygen, and water. As you know, as always, on this show and any content that we create, it is for your own health purposes. This is not intended to be advice or medical diagnoses or professional advice. It's purely information that if it resonates with you and you apply it and you upgrade, we love to hear about it. What a great coincidence, and we're happy to be on that journey with you. If this doesn't resonate with you and you know somebody it will, pass it along. And in the meantime, know that we truly are here to show you and explain to you and be with you through this lovely journey of life, and to share our experiences together and help each other upgrade, because that's how we're going to do this, together, collaborating with love at the center. I'm Kelly Kennedy, and I am so grateful from my heart to yours to share this time, energy, and space with you.